knowing your voices. So it's a lot of, I think, people reconnecting, and being in conversations through this meeting. I want to welcome you all. My name is Margarita Macedonio, and I am the principal planner with the city's planning division, and I oversee the neighborhood initiatives and environmental services section in planning. I'm also the project manager for the Transit Zoning Code project. And I want to welcome you here, and we're going to go over some slides. We'll have an opportunity for questions. We do have some comment cards at the sign-in desk where we're collecting your comments. We'd like to know what your questions are, and the intent is to be able to include your comments and the questions that are asked as part of our documentation of this meeting to share with our city council members. I wanted to go over some operating principles of the meeting today. We're going to start with presentation, and I'll be able to provide some background. We will have time for questions. And we also want to make you aware that the meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the city's YouTube channel for folks who are not able to attend and policymakers to be able to watch after. And I want to thank you again for being here. I also want to share the meeting norms is something that we can take into consideration, is to be respectful of each other, to limit the interruptions and the side conversations. That way we can focus on the meeting topic, which is important. And also for just a reminder about the questions, we have index cards, but you will also have an opportunity following the presentation to ask questions. This is the agenda. So we want to be able to clarify roles, community members, your role, city staff's role, our policymakers and their role, why we're here, how we got here, and there's a history that's involved with the Transit Zoning Code, recent developments, what we as staff are tasked to do for the city council, what we've heard from the community so far about the project, and what comes next, and how you can stay involved. So that's the agenda. To start off, to clarify roles, you as community members, businesses, residents, you all have an interest in this community. And so your role as folks who either elect our city council members, or you are involved, you have a business, you pay taxes, this is an effort to get your input, to get involved, and to ensure that you are connected and you're involved through the process. As city staff, we're proposing recommendations from direction that we get from the city council. We also have a role and a responsibility working with constituents. And city council members who represent the different areas, they are elected and they are the policymakers. I just wanted to clarify that. We may have folks who've never been to a meeting of the Transit Zoning Code before, so that's why we just thought it was important to go over some of this information. So why we are here. This district is known as the Transit Zoning Code District. Many of you have businesses here, community members live here, you work here, you go to school here, you take care of your families here. And so this is a zoning district that was established in 2010. And so we can see that there's different designations for this area. And all of you received a notification by mail. And so this is part of your community. And so, with that, it's just really important to highlight that in 2010, the intention of the Transit Zoning Code was to be able to provide more opportunities to build pedestrian-oriented developments. And one of the things that remained was the overlay zone with the light and heavy industrial uses. And so that was something that remained back in 2010. So this is what brings us here today. One of the observations that we've noticed is, along the years, there have been also with more development happening, we've noticed that the businesses have remained, and there's also new regulations, requirements that have been presented to us as a city and many other jurisdictions from the state. And one of them is SB 1000. And so that required for cities to incorporate environmental justice policies into their general plans. And this happened during the time that the city was updating our own general plan. And with the general plan outreach that was conducted, part of that effort included identifying community engagement that resulted in 77 environmental justice policies and implementation actions that relate to air quality, lead, contamination, water quality. So these were all requirements that were imposed upon from the cities to be able to respond. And so the city chose to include that, and that's something that the city council adopted in 2022 with our general plan. At the same time, there's been a history, and some of you are aware that there's been growing concerns about the environment, about the effects of air quality, and there's much more regulation and agencies that are doing their work in terms of issuing permits and making sure that businesses and others are complying with that. And what we've had is also some growing concerns from the community, concerns about the city or other agencies not doing enough to make sure that the environment, that there's no further public health issues that are affecting families and people who are attending schools and other neighboring uses. And so that's something that's been really important in terms of the direction that the city council has provided in having us come up with ways to implement our environmental justice policies and to continue to be informing our community about what is next. And so that's part of why and how we got here. I wanted to touch a little bit more on the land use inconsistencies. Now that we have a general plan, we still have areas such as the transit zoning code that create more inconsistencies, conflicts with the business and the neighboring development and the effect on families and the concerns that we've been receiving. So there's a lot of different pressures, let's just say, with the legislation, with our role as city staff implementing the legislation, and with direction that we are also receiving from our city council based on the concerns and just the goals and the objectives of implementing the plan. Some of the examples that we're talking about are compatible uses, compatibility with businesses and residential and schools and parks, sensitive receptors, those who are more susceptible to, let's say, asthma patients, the elderly. We have other community members who are just more at risk of being harmed, by some of the environmental pollution and other risks. There's noxious, hazardous, dangerous, polluting uses. That's another land use policy that's in our general plan that we are working to address. A lot of it is education, but it's also being able to know, what are agencies responsible for and how do we facilitate different concerns and a better quality of life for neighborhoods and everyone who is part of that fabric of neighborhoods that we're trying to that we're trying to implement and that we're trying to raise the quality of life for everyone. Other examples are air pollution buffers, other land use strategies, healthy neighborhoods, doing what we can to avoid some of the conflicts of these uses and the decisions on, how are we affecting those vulnerable populations that are more at risk, that are considered disadvantaged communities. And that's how we're terming a lot of the areas, including Logan, Lacey, downtown. Those are some of the neighborhoods that are considered disadvantaged communities. Following the adoption of the general plan in 2022, in late 2022, early 2023, the Planning Commission and the City Council adopted a noxious uses ordinance. It's the first in Orange County, and it was expanded to require a conditional use permit, a CUP, for a facility that is handling the emission, the storage, emitting hazardous compounds and material when a site is within 100 feet of a sensitive land use, and would require an external agency permit, external agency being AQMD or some of the other regulatory agencies. We also updated the non-conforming buildings, the uses ordinance that now requires a CUP for any business ownership changes. And it also calls to enforcement of our Santa Ana Municipal Code violations for any breaches of the permits with the external agencies. We've had ongoing code enforcement activities and also looking at what the outside regulatory violations are saying. There's been notices of compliance. And so all of this led to the adoption of the moratorium that many of you have heard about, that the council adopted first an urgency ordinance that was for 45 days in April, and the extension in May, on May 21st, to extend it to by 10 months and 15 days to April 15, 2025. So right now we do have the moratorium in effect, and so it has created a pause. So there's no approval right now to start to expand the industrial businesses in the transit zoning code. And so we know that this is affecting at least 130 businesses, I'm sure of which most of you are here representing. So this is what we're being asked to do by the City Council. There are two things. One is to follow up on the direction that we've received to evaluate, to recommend permanent regulations to the Planning Commission and the City Council that address the land use conflicts, that address the growing community concerns, and that address the regulatory compliance issues, whether it's with the city or the external agencies. We are also being asked to inform community members about the moratorium and about efforts underway to adopt the permanent zoning regulations. So this meeting, your participation, the comments is very important to us so that we can be able to include that in future documentation when we do present the permanent recommendations. We wanted to take this time to make everyone aware of the different types of comments, questions, concerns that we've received. It comes from different perspectives. Could be a resident, could be a business owner, it could be somebody who is taking their child to school here. And so we just wanted to make you aware that we are receiving different types of input from many community members and businesses in the area. One being, and I'm not going to read it one by one, but in general, there's concerns about decisions that the city is pursuing and how that will impact businesses. How this will be able to, what is the future of the businesses? How will all of this be rolled out? What about compliance, compensation? So those are the categories of concerns that we've received from several industrial businesses that we have been meeting with. We also have received concerns from residents in the area. If the changes that are forthcoming that the city would be recommending down the line, if they will be increasing the rent for residents who live in the area. There's concerns about how can there be protections in place to help our residents so that they're not pushed out, as an example. There's also clarification and advocacy from other organizations in the community, specifically the Southeast Santa Ana part of town, who wants an industrial uses moratorium in their part of town because they are concerned about the air quality, the exposure, the distance from schools to a lot of those uses. And so they're asking for that too. In addition, they are just as concerned about the neighborhoods here, but they also want that for their neighborhood. And the last summary of concerns that are coming up have to do with the regulatory agencies and how they're responding or not responding to the concerns and the enforcement of permits that they are issuing to facilities and businesses in the not only in the transit zoning code, but in other areas where you have a lot of industrial close to residential. So what comes next? What is the next step? Well, we have, as a city, we're working on a draft ordinance that will be presented to the city council during the moratorium period. The date has not been set. A draft has been worked on and is currently being reviewed internally and for legal evaluation. The new regulations that are being considered may include the removal of the M1 and M2 overlay zones in the transit zoning code. So we have the map here. You all are familiar with the map, and it's the shaded areas. That is one of the considerations. The second is modifying the existing standards and regulations for the non-conforming buildings and uses. And so with that, that would be also part of the draft that would be shared with you when we're ready to take this to the Planning Commission and to the City Council meeting. Third, modification of allowable uses. So this would be to allow buildings, existing buildings, to be able to transition to other commercial types of uses. We are interested in exploring that possibility so that we have that transition happening and it provides flexibility. And lastly, it's coming up with criteria for an amortization process to create a phased schedule. And this would be aimed at gradually eliminating the highest industrial polluting businesses over a specific period of time. So this provides the components of what may be included in the draft permanent regulations that are currently being reviewed internally. We plan to schedule future Planning Commission, City Council meetings. All addresses in the Transit Zoning Code will receive the public hearing notice, just like many of you received tonight for this meeting. That will follow for the Planning Commission and the City Council meetings. Your involvement is critical, and how you would stay involved is that we would continue to make our staff ourselves available. Our staff would be able to meet with you, provide updates, information, take questions. Also providing an opportunity for you to review and comment on the draft ordinance when it is released. And this would be prior to the public hearing schedule. We have not scheduled it. It's to be determined. participating in the public hearing meetings at the Planning Commission and the City Council meeting. As mentioned before, you will receive the public hearing notice for both meetings separately by mail, and it'll go to everyone who lives here, rents here, business owner, property owner in this area. And those are the two meetings that would follow. We wanted to provide this QR code for you to be able to go to the page where the Transit Zoning Code Moratorium, where you'll find more information. You'll find the ordinances that have been placed there. My contact information is there. I'm the project manager for this project. But more than anything, we want to let you know where we're at, what we're thinking. We're interested in your thoughts, and we're interested in being able to be available to answer any questions and to make sure that you are clear when this gets scheduled and how you can participate. Okay. All right, so we'll be taking some questions right now. Do we have somebody? Okay, if you can raise your hand. And to manage expectations, we may not have the answers to all of your questions, but we are going to be taking note of your question.
Hi, I'm a building owner right around the corner here where the railroad tracks intersect Fuller Street. And I've owned the building for over 20 years now. I put a lot of money into my building. I completely repainted it, redid the whole inside, created an office. While it was vacant, it was broken into, and the wiring and copper was ripped out of it. But I hung in there. I didn't sell the building. I made it nice and very presentable to the neighborhood. I recently rented to a very good tenant, and they store and warehouse corporate furniture. I don't see anything really detrimental to the environment or pollution causing in that use. And they're having a lot of difficulty receiving the, what is it, this certificate of occupancy, COO. And we just recently got a notice that I could be fined up to, is it $1,000 or $5,000 a day? We've done everything we can to rectify and remedy the situation, and the city still is holding up the COO. And that's one of my questions. When will I get that? And will I have to move eventually? And will I have compensation for my issues and troubles?
Thank you, sir. Right now, the city is not considering compensation for the issues, but on the COO, every property is different, and it could be another enforcement issue. But I think I would encourage that we connect so that we can make sure if there is something that's outstanding or there's something that could be handled, right? That clarification, is needed. But yeah, right now, the city is not considering the compensation as a vehicle to implement these permanent regulations that are being proposed. Frank, go ahead.
Hi. You said there were about 130 businesses in this area. Do you know how many residents there are in this area, or people living in this area? Do you have a population count?
I have it from different neighborhoods, but I don't have it cumulative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So Hema, can you note that as well. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank you. My name is Bob Adams. I own Adams Iron Company in Santa Ana. We've spoke a lot recently. Obviously, you know all of our concerns, my concern. Just a real quick overview here. Back in 2001, Burke Development came in and Santa Ana gave the right for Burke Development to produce 9 buildings adjacent to where we are sitting right now and build a beautiful community of industrial buildings on M1 and M2 property. And at that time, I thought this is great. I put a lot of money down, a lot of money into it, bought into it, grew my business for my retirement and my children's retirement, so on and so forth. In 2007, you came along and tried to do the same thing you're trying to do right now. And then we came up with the Renaissance Plan. I was very active in it. And at that time, you came up with, along with our recommendations, the overlay, which allowed our businesses to stay, and here's the key word, perpetuity. When you look up perpetuity, everybody knows what it means. It means forever. And you gave us that guarantee. I took that to the bank. I spent millions developing my business. And I guess my first question is, you had up there that you were going to deal with compensation. That was one of the questions. And now you say, well, there will be no compensation. So where's the compensation for the business owners who spent hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, their life building their businesses? What type of consideration are you going to give to that? And when you mentioned up there also permanent recommendations to the council that you're going to make with regards to people's lives, people with homes and people with businesses, how am I to believe you as the city when you come up and say permanent recommendations when you already did that with the overlay, perpetuity? So that's a big concern of mine. And I'm happy that we finally got you out in the public to start telling people about what's going on. Most of the people you see from the businesses and possibly the homeowners knew nothing. There was no public outreach. There was nothing. And now we're finally getting that. So I would hope that we could all get to a civil agreement to where businesses can remain and homes are there, which, by the way, City of Santa Ana decided to put the homes in next to my business as they did everybody else's around here. And was there any community outreach on that? Did anybody ask the businesses, well, what do you think about putting a 3-story high-rise right here with people living in? So not to take any more time, amortization is dead. That is a death sentence to businesses for everything that we've worked for. All it says is in 20 years, you got to go. Try to sell a business that has a 20-year lifespan or a building that has a 20-year lifespan. You can't do it. Okay, it is not feasible. It's not fair, and it's inequitable for everybody that's here as a business owner. So I thank you for the time, and you'll be hearing a lot from me and almost a lot more people that are already here.
Okay, that's great, Bob. That's great, Bob. Reminding us of the decisions that took place previously. The effort is really to get you all informed, and you will do what you need to do as we move through the process. And you will know when it gets scheduled. You will know when the permanent draft of the ordinance becomes available for you to be able to review and comment. And so that is the intent of the informational meeting today. But yes, I think it's very important that you all are here, especially the businesses, especially if you're within the 130 businesses that is affected. Frank, Frank, if you can please raise your hand, and we have Frank roving the mic. Thank you.
Hello, Kelly Crossley. I'm a homeowner in the zone, and I want to thank you for coming out here today. And I'm confused by this comment that you didn't know anything about it because it's been at the city council meetings multiple times. And for those residents and voters here who actually live here every single day and are dealing with these issues, we've been aware because we're going to the city council meeting and we're talking with Councilmember Peñalosa. So maybe if there was more involvement day to day, then you would be more aware of what was happening.
Hi, my name is Brian. So I've lived here for 20 years across the street. And to me, I've had 20 years of lip service from the city. In regards to the transfer station, it's right down at the end of the street. It has a great environmental impact. The city, to my understanding, owns that land and continues to rent that to the transfer station, although all the time knowing that it has a great environmental impact on the homeowners that live in this area. Yet you allow that to continue to be here, but you want to push out businesses that have no environmental impact to the neighborhood, so that they can become residential properties and it can make you more money.
My name is Ron Jacobs. I own a business for 40 years on 2nd Street here in Santa Ana. And my business is basically amongst other residential houses on the same street. And all those houses are basically houses that the city has basically taken down to redevelop into apartments all along the city, all over the city. These houses are maybe 60 years old and they're dilapidated. My business has been upkept, is one of the shiniest stars on the street, and I don't have any idea when I have a business owner who wants to buy my property what to tell them. They're in the automotive industry as well, which is my business, and they want to buy my business. I've been there for 40 years paying for my business, like Mr. Adams mentioned, a long-term investment. And there doesn't seem, you guys are drawing pictures and making all your plans, but it's all rendering, it's all paper, it's all stuff that gave you guys an opportunity to make a living. But you guys are ready to tear down or stop our livelihood. And we have buildings that we've bought and created, and it's like an abomination. It's basically against the Fifth Amendment. So I don't understand where your ethics are and where you believe that this is going, and what is the purpose of it? Why is it so important for you guys to make this project happen?
Thank you for your comment. Yes, as mentioned before, we are taking direction that the city council has provided us with the adoption of an urgency ordinance in April, extended to April of next year. And so that's the time frame that we are working with to have the permanent solutions. And we understand that it's going to impact people differently, and that's why we're here. Next.
Yeah, my name's David Behrens and I'm a property owner. Basically, I want to know why nobody got the vote on this. And that, serious. Yeah, that's it.
There is no voting. The vote was taken by the city council. Go ahead, sir.
I'm a property owner here too. We own the building next door to Bob Adams. We've owned that building for 20-something years. My big question is, what's the big difference here between taking property on eminent domain and you guys making our property worthless by telling us that the existing use that we bought the property under, which was zoned by your city and by your planning division and everybody else, how this suddenly becomes an issue for you to debate, and whether you're going to compensate us for our buildings. You've taken away our ability to use it for what we bought it for. So I think those are some serious issues that you guys need to consider.
I just wanted to provide some context. So the adoption of the general plan in 2022 did create the inconsistent land use issues, and also with growing concerns that we have received from the community is part of what has led the direction that we have now.
I have a very similar comment. We own the building on Poinsettia right across from the train station. My family's had that property since the 40s. I've been working here since I've been 14 years old. This is how I make a living. This is how I support my family. This is how I got my kids through college. I'm pretty proactive, and I do appreciate the city. Now, in about 20 years ago, the city came with eminent domain. My building was going to be phase 3 of where the apartments were going. And we were offered compensation. Our property would have been purchased by the developer or the city at market value, and we would have got moving costs to go to Orange, Mountain Valley, Placentia. Now my concern is, I've got a $5.5 million building there that if this goes through, the numbers I'm crunching in my head, and I've had some conversations with Charlie Wynn, my building goes down to property value. I'll lose about 75% of the value of my property. Now, you got to understand, this goes back to my grandfather. We've been working there for over 75 years. We've been in business since 1924. We support Santa Ana. We have 75 to 150 workers in this area at a time. It feels like the city is running us out without just cause. We work great with the neighborhood. I would also like to know if there's an environmental report. I've been looking for that, and what businesses are really causing noxious. Is there really, can industrial work with residential? Because I've been very happy here, and I'm literally right next to 3 phases of industrial use living units, and we don't have any problems. So, I'm at a loss right here.
Hi, my name is Mike Tardif. My question might be 2 parts. First, a comment. I'd like to know how the city justifies instituting the industrial moratorium as an urgency ordinance when the transit zoning code area, this entire area, Logan, Lacey, has been in existence for over 100 years. Why couldn't this be part of the general plan? Why is it being shoved through by itself, separate from the general plan, with very little engagement? And the second part of that question is, SB 1000 calls for the environmental justice element to identify objectives and policies to promote civic engagement in the public decision-making process. That's right from the law. As industrial owners, we have not had any civic engagement with the city as far as real engagement. I'm talking about back and forth. The city wants this. Well, how about if we do this? None of that has gone on. When can we expect an actual civic engagement, feedback, and back and forth type communication? Will that exist at all?
So the urgency ordinance that the city council adopted in April of 2024 was to respond to public health and wellness and safety concerns. And so there have been complaints from the neighborhood as well. There was a fire that took place at one of the locations. And so that was part of what led to the adoption of the urgency ordinance and then the moratorium extension. So there's information there. This is an informational meeting to make you all aware of what is coming, what is the thought process, what's being considered, and to get your comments again.
So this is not a civic engagement. This is you passing on information to us. So
I'm not gonna debate you, Mike, on this, but I'm just, let me clarify, Mike, let me clarify that this is a forum where we're getting your thoughts, we're getting your concerns, so you are participating, but know that there are future opportunities where you will be able to participate, whether it's a planning commission meeting or a city council meeting.
once it goes to the planning commission, it's planning commission
Okay.
did nothing with it.
Please, Mike, if you can be respectful.
Well, you're not respecting
Hello,
us.
can you hear me?
Okay, if you're cutting me off, please, let's have somebody else ask a question, please.
Hi, my name is Jerome Verdugo. I own a piece of property on Lincoln Street. I've got commercial property in front of me, behind me, and on both sides. So right now, at night is very peaceful, very quiet, very serene. During the day, it's kind of hectic. But if you're gonna take this properties and make them into 3-story apartments, now I'm gonna be surrounded by about another 5,000 people. There goes the serenity, there goes the quietness, there goes everything that I enjoy about living here. I've lived here 30 years. So I don't understand anyways what the transportation has to do with the commercial properties there. So what am I to expect? 3-story apartment buildings all around me, or do you have that answer? And when will you have the answer? And how many people is gonna flood that little neighborhood? Right now, there's no parking. There's no parking. Everybody scrambles for parking. We get wrote up for putting our trash cans because the apartment buildings that went up, they're starting to park over in our neighborhoods. So what's the solution for somebody like me?
Okay, so
My name is Gabriel Flores. I'm a resident of the Madison Park neighborhood here in Santa Ana. I'm glad there's a lot of people out here expressing their voice on what's going on. I know this is a very contentious issue, but I think kind of the concerns that a lot of the community has right now, I don't know if it's going to be addressed in this whole zoning thing. I think the reason it's happening is because Santa Ana has some of the worst air quality in the state of California. We're in the top 10 to 20% worst air quality in the state of California. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's a fact. The state of California is telling us that. The state of California is telling the city of Santa Ana that. And that's why they have to address this issue with industries that are polluting our community. So it's true, there might be some businesses that are not contaminating our community, but there are some that are contaminating our air at a very high amount. So regardless, if there's business owners that say, you know, what about my business that's been here for 20, 30 years? Well, it's affecting over 300,000 people's health every single day that live here. There's over 300,000 residents that live here. We have the highest rates of asthma in the county. You can't deny that. These are facts. And just in the last 2 years, these 2 neighborhoods, the number of incidents to lung-related issues went up by 7%. And this is data that the city got from our firefighters. Okay, so these are all facts. So regardless if you want to say, oh, my business is not affecting the air quality, it is. This is data we're getting from the county. This is data we're getting from our firefighters. This is data that's coming from the state to the city. And that's the reason we're in the situation we're in right now. So now it's either deciding, are the business owners gonna adapt and find some way to adjust their operations so that they're not contaminating the air? Or are they gonna fight the city so they stay here? Or, and you're gonna say, screw 300,000 people that are affected every day? Holy shit. It's okay, you could tell me
let's
that.
have some order here. So I just wanted,
That's what it is.
okay, I just wanted to get back to the earlier comment where some of that background could be found on the urgency ordinance that went before the council in April. So some of the statistics, the information that's referenced that come from the state is in the detail of that report. Back to the earlier question regarding what's the plan? Well, right now, the plan is to provide some permanent recommendations, but there are no plans to do anything else but to make sure that you, as community members who have a vested interest in this area, that you're informed when the planning commission gets scheduled and when the city council meeting gets scheduled to discuss this item. You will have an opportunity to review it in advance. You will have an opportunity to be informed and be invited on when that happens. Frank, do we have another question?
What qualifies as an urgent versus a regular ordinance, and why couldn't we come to a compromise with the community versus the property owners before we started implementing some of these permanent changes already with our tenants who also provide a lot of jobs for people in the area as well?
Yeah, the urgency ordinance is something that the council passed, adopted because of the public health concerns that, and community concerns and land use conflicts that we were reviewing earlier today. And so that's been the direction, and that's going to be moving forward, and you all will be able to comment on when that gets scheduled.
I had a real quick follow-up. Appreciate it very much. And I want to commend the homeowner, whoever he was, that person was back there. That's what I call community involvement. And his key word was, can't we work together to maybe have the businesses make some modifications to do this, that, or the other? We haven't had any input on that whatsoever, but I think that is the definition of community involvement, where we all get together, as Mike says, and we do something like that instead of being told what you're going to do to us and destroy our lives. Secondly, I had a question about the fire that keeps coming up. Are you aware of it, where it was?
Yes.
Is it the crematorium? Okay, so here's the fire. There's a crematorium which has the right to work here, and they were disposing of a body. Black smoke billowing out. It was reported as a fire. Okay, so there's your fire, right? A company that is already documented to work in the zoning and whatnot. And lastly, I want to comment real quickly, because a lot of people don't know about NS 3063, which is the ordinance that is the moratorium. I have proven that to be unlawful. You are completely disposing of our vested rights as business owners. And that has been proven with your city attorney. I don't think anybody even knows about that. And you read the verbiage that's in there, it is complete boilerplate. There's no foundation that ties it to anything in this area. And I really take offense to having that keep telling us about this moratorium when people are trying to run their businesses and the city won't allow a C of O, a CUP, or permits for things that are necessary for the building, which, by the way, I acquired through getting an attorney and respectfully going to the city attorney and going back and forth, and we came up with an agreement. So I think that NS 3063 is kind of a bunch of hooey, in my opinion, and it's not founded. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Jose Rea. I'm a resident of Santa Ana for 40 years, 25 in the Madison Park Neighborhood Association. And just to provide a little bit of content, basically the South Coast Air Quality Management District has an estimated between 1,200 and 1,600 permits that most of them are on the eastern side of the city. That goes from the 5 freeway parallel to the 55 freeway, all the way to the 405 freeway. And that includes this area. And we know also that out of 64 neighborhoods, the California Environmental Protection Agency determined that 33 of the neighborhoods in Santa Ana are disproportionately impacted by pollution. So that's a fact. And we work closely with the city on the 77 policies that include environmental justice as required by SB 1000. So we had several meetings with parents in the schools, and their concern is, what is the cumulative effect of all this 1,200, 1,600, whatever it is, permits polluting the air while my kid is playing in recess at the school? What about if my kid has asthma? And like Ronell mentioned, we know that the highest rates of asthma in the entire county, with kids missing school days, but also going to the hospital for emergency visits due to asthma, it's along the same industrial corridor. And I think I applaud the city for finally paying attention to the health of the residents. I understand that businesses and financial well-being or being on the clear for the city is very important. But guess what? Our health is also very important, especially the kids and the elderly. They have conditions provided by or impacted by air pollution. So I think that we are really ones that are asking that you go into the south part of the city where the school like Century High School that is surrounded 360 degrees by industry. Monroe Elementary, which is the most impacted school surrounded by industrial polluting industry, is also just in the Delhi neighborhood. We want the city to start cleaning up that industry that is affecting our kids.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the point of the meeting is to drive businesses out or to work together as a community and industrial owners. We've honestly been here for a long time. Everybody should be able to work together. I've heard some really great comments. I've heard great comments on health, which I think most business owners here agree with. I think the point that we're trying to decide is for environmental justice, there should be justice on both sides. And devaluing our properties is a concern. I think that's why a lot of business owners are here. We were going to give our building up in the 2000s with eminent domain. We were going to be compensated fairly, and we were honestly looking to move to Placentia. I didn't want to do it, but that was a discussion that was had, and we were going to go. But today, what the city's asking is they are going to, I can't move to Placentia. I can't help these citizens. And the other comment I asked for, like an environmental report to really decide in this overlay, we're not part of where Century High School with, this is a small overlay. Are the businesses here really creating and adding to that pollution? Or is it a city problem with all the new cars and traffic we're bringing in? It's probably a combination, but the city should take care of both the residences and the industrial properties. And if you want our property, I'll give it to you right now, but I would expect to be paid for it. And right now you're telling me it's going to be worth about 25 cents on the dollar is what my real estate broker told me. That's not environmental justice. That's not justice.
We're noting that consideration for the compensation. It's been brought up several comments tonight and even in the prior meetings. Look, what you are going to, and I'm going to repeat this, when this draft ordinance, gets presented or gets scheduled, you will be informed about it. You can review it, take it apart, however you want, but that is your availability, your opportunity to look at that. I mean, many of you have already been in contact with each other, so I would just encourage you to stay connected, to definitely look out from when this meeting gets scheduled, when you can look at the draft and how you can continue to participate. Because that is where those decisions that staff is recommending will be discussed. Yes.
I have a question. So I know mixed use exists for commercial and residential, like maybe you have bottom floor retail, top floor residential. Is there any zoning construct that allows a light use industrial combined with residential on a certain plot, or does that not exist in your experience?
Mixed use has been we have flex industrial in some of our focus areas, but I think, I just want to manage expectations, of this meeting and of, what we're considering. We still have it being reviewed for legal evaluation and internally. So we don't have any product, yet to present. So
Okay, thank you.
if we can have somebody who hasn't spoken so we can hear from others, that would be helpful.
I think we all are smart enough to know throughout the country there's mixed use. You drive through LA, There's factories next to residential. They don't flush the industrial properties and the business owners out of their communities. Go to New York, there's industrial businesses, there's businesses next to new residential all over the community. I've heard a lot of good comments. I think we're all concerned about health, keeping people safe. I think we want the kids to feel good about playing outdoors. But sir, I'm going to make a comment. I've been in this city for a very long time, and I've seen the city go downhill fast when they allow all the vape shops and all the dispensaries to open up in the city. And I think that a lot of these kids have asthma from smoking. They smoke on the way to school, they smoke as soon as they set foot off the campus. So why don't you say something about the dispensaries that your city allowed open because they were broke and needed money? That's a real concern I have. I'm not even a resident of this local area. I hear a lot of comments made by the lady up here that's in the planning department about growing concerns and calls to the city. I think we need facts and figures. Having a couple calls here and there are one thing, but I think we all know the backbone of this city and the history is businesses and manufacturing. I mean, I've been around manufacturing for 30 plus years, and this is always the largest industrial base in the county. And I think you need to think about that. And you're trying to flush these people out. They're the backbone to the community, that people that probably employ 2,000 workers in this zone. And I don't think it's 130 businesses. It's probably 200 businesses that are affected by this.
One more comment was that you have to understand that there's a freeway system going 3 different directions into the center of Santa Ana. You have the 5 freeway, the 55 freeway, the 405 freeway. Are those cars not causing any pollution at all? I mean, so what is it that the city, the EPA, is going to do to monitor the bad boys against the good boys? And then when the good boys stand out, are they going to be able to be set free? I mean, you're basically holding everybody hostage because nobody's going to improve their business or put money in their business from this day on if they don't know that the future could be doomed. End of story.
Hi, I'm a new resident to Santa Ana. I am in one of the new developments that's residential, and I feel like we need more residents and people that live here to talk. I appreciate all the businesses that have been here, but you know, KB decided to build a wonderful community that attracted me, so I'm there. And if the businesses and the residents can work together and understand from our standpoint as well, and certainly I can understand what the businesses are going through, I would be quite mad at all the things that I've heard as well. However, you know, imagine your family living there, you know, the business owners, if that was your neighborhood that you had to live in, how you would feel, and if we could work together to find a good solution and to realize the old neighborhood is changing and we need to accept that. And there's a lot of, you know, empty land out there that will become likely residential, and how all those residents are going to be impacted as well. So I just feel like I need to say my point because our voice is not very loud. And it's not like we're trying to argue with you guys or to make it go out of business, but I think we need to find a good solution where we can have better air and sound. Sound is a big thing that I don't think anyone has looked into. It's really loud during the day and at night with the train and everything. So
Okay, back there? Can we please quiet down before we hear our next person ask a question?
Let me just paint you guys a picture. I'm a resident of the Logan neighborhood, and I know someone had spoken at the crematorium oh, it happens every now and then, it's just smoke. Well, how about if you were barbecuing in your neighborhood and gust of smoke lands on your barbecue? Ash everywhere, and this is nonstop. I have videos, hours of videos of this happening. Not only that, business adjacent to us that had no respect for the residents that have lived there for a number of years, many, many years. This is the stuff that we're dealing with, the day in and day out issues. Something that you guys are here for a bit and gone and don't see it on a day-to-day basis. This is the stuff that a number of the residents are dealing with. And the houses that where I live have been there for many years, way before the businesses. My grandmother fought for that neighborhood to be there. And it's a very pure neighborhood. So, I just wanted to kind of paint that picture. And a number of you businesses know who you are. You guys come in and out, driving as fast as possible, going the wrong way, no consideration for the residents. So drinking and driving, getting drunk, drinking inside the resident or their businesses, flipping us off. And this is an ongoing issue. And I have videos of this if any of these other businesses would like to see that. I just wanted to paint that picture. I know some of you businesses probably do run, your shop is clean, you respect residents, but there is an issue going on.
We can have someone who hasn't spoken to have that opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Isuri Ramos. I'm actually the vice chair of the Planning Commission, and I live a walking distance from many of your businesses. And I heard a comment earlier that I just wanted to kind of respond to. So one, I'm happy to see the great turnout. I'm really glad to be hearing all of the concerns, both from residents and businesses alike. And earlier I heard a comment say that when this comes to the Planning Commission, it's going to be a done deal. But I really want to just reassure you that when things come to the Planning Commission, planning commissioners really take note of the presence of the public. So I ask that whenever that gets scheduled, that you please turn out the same way you turned out today. And that both residents and businesses turn out and express those comments. Because at least for me, when I'm there, I really take into consideration what is being said. And the Planning Commission has a history of making recommendations that will change the language that is presented to us. So I just wanted to say that. I can't make a promise on how things will turn out. We're a diverse body. But I want to invite you all to show up to that Planning Commission hearing whenever that is scheduled.
Hi, my name is Michael Feely. I own a business in Santa Ana in the zoning area. My family for 47 years has done auto body repair. Okay, we've seen since the 70s, okay, where we talk about pollution in the neighborhoods and everything. Who all lived here in the 70s? Okay, all right, it was really bad, really bad. Okay, so it's not like we all woke up 2 weeks ago and we were all here. Okay, so in the AQMD in my industry is very regulatory in my industry. There's been 197 changes since 1976, okay, in the regulatory of my business to make sure we're clean. We shoot water-based paint and everything else to help because school areas and stuff within 1,200 feet and stuff, they want to make sure that it's safe. That's working with the businesses and they know we're here. So, but we didn't wake up yesterday and then we were all here. Okay, I employ people in the neighborhood and they work for us. So let's say we eliminated all the businesses in the room right now, okay? Your area would get clean, but you would also lose thousands of jobs, thousands. So we have to make sure, okay, that first of all, you don't break the people that have put millions of dollars into their businesses, okay? In buying them and upgrading and hiring people, okay? Because that's not That's not good planning. That's horrible planning. Okay, because that's disaster. Okay, because so all the business spaces I see in here right now, like myself and my wife, okay, we're thinking one thing when we got this in the mail. Okay, you don't have a choice. What it looks like when I read it. It says you have no choice. It's going to change. So plan for it. Is that what we're hearing?
What you're hearing is that there's permanent regulations that are going to be presented to the planning commission and later to the city council, and that is your opportunity to weigh in, provide your comments, what you would like to see, any changes, any concerns. Through those bodies, that input is another opportunity to share your concerns. There is no done deal, as people have been commenting today.
Is there anyone else in the back who would like to make a comment? I know that there's like some repeat folks that want to make sure that we get
I
everyone.
would like to hear from someone who has not spoken out because we have a really good turnout tonight. It'd be great to hear from someone in the back.
Good afternoon. My name is Jimmy. When you call it, I have 3 questions. I think I have 3 questions. One of them, I want to know who's the city council that proposed this. So the city council people that are in the staff, the board that suggested this. The second one is people complaining about the residents and stuff. I just took a survey from where my area of business is located. I have 30 signatures here from people, residents that are happy with how there is. So I hear complaints about residents, but there's also people that are happy, you know? And at night, all these residents that live there, they go park in the areas where the businesses are, you know? That's extra. And if they were concerned about pollution and stuff like that, the freeway has grown so much, it has created more pollution, correct? Obviously. And then we have a lot of vacant lots. We can grow trees there or stuff like that. Solution. Raise the property taxes on residential so we can combat what they are concerned about. Pollution and stuff like that. In areas that are, what you call it, vacant, you know.
I just wanted to clarify that the direction, the moratorium extension, that was approved unanimously by the city council in April and in May. And you can find that on the moratorium page. If you scan this, it'll take you to the page, sir, and you can find the detail that you are asking about.
I got a couple of comments. Closer? All right. I got a couple of comments. This young man right here, he was talking about the crematorium. The crematorium is kind of a problem. I live right across the street from it. I 100% agree with him. But what does that got to do with the material handling guy or the plumber guys or the wood guys? Yeah, the crematorium is definitely a problem. And to address the gentleman in the corner over there with the pollution, he's saying that the AQMD does this and does that for us. Okay, Logan has been a long time. The dirt has been contaminated with lead for the longest time. Have you guys made any effort to clean up the properties? No, but you're willing to spend millions to get these people out of here. Why don't you take that money and clean up the properties that have all that lead contamination? And is the elected official here? No, we don't have our district elected official isn't here.
Elected officials.
I'd like to see how he feels about everything. Seeing as though we voted him in, how does he feel?
Elected officials will be informed about this meeting. This meeting is being recorded, so they'll be able to watch that. We just want to make sure that we are hearing your comments, we're writing them, and that we're collecting the concerns and the questions that you have in our box for those who don't get a chance to speak on the mic tonight. Who do we have next, Frank?
Hi there, I'm David. I'm on 6th Street next to Freeway Auto. And there's been a big problem with homeless people camping on the sidewalks, setting up tents, setting up shop, living there. They won't leave. In the last 26 years, it's changed drastically. Whoever took Tom's truck and built all those 3-story apartments, The traffic on Fourth Street is just insurmountable. And it's your fault. You didn't ask us. You just shoved it down our throat. I moved here for an M1 zoning. You can't take that away from us. Why would you do that? Ruin our lives. Thank you.
I did want to make a comment. We have roughly a little less or around 13 minutes left. We will be concluding the meeting at 7, so we'll just take the last couple of comments.
I think something else the residents should also consider is that if we get rid of all the industrial businesses and start building high density housing, how much construction and noise pollution that's going to cause the residences versus just what we have going on right now with the regular industrial zoning. And also they say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So with this new sort of housing, how's that going to impact gentrification and push the people that are already living here out as well? So has that been considered, and has there been studies on gentrification and the upcoming construction pollution and how that's going to affect the residents as well?
There's no project being proposed. There's regulations, standards that would be part of this recommendation that would be going as a draft to the Planning Commission and then to the City Council. But we are noting the concerns, and that was one concern that I referenced earlier that we've heard from residents about potential increases and being pushed out. So we have that noted.
Can I ask you a question?
Mike, again,
Listen, are you aware of any other municipality which is dealing with the environmental justice element of their general plan update, which has instituted an urgency ordinance like ours? Are you aware of any of them? Anywhere else in Southern California?
all cities are having to address environmental justice in their general plans.
No moratoriums, no moratoriums.
And some have had moratoriums, but Dolores had a question, Frank, after.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Dolores y soy residente de Logan. La verdad me da mucha alegría y mucho gusto verles aquí, porque esto es lo que yo siempre, cuando en una reunión, siempre digo, ¿dónde están los negociantes? ¿Dónde están los de las industrias, los comercios? Es muy importante su voz. Ahorita pasaron un voto anónimo, no tenemos representación de nuestro concejal, pero sí es muy importante que ustedes sigan viniendo, sigan participando, porque nadie puede votar por lo que tú no quieres. Tienes que venir para que te enteres, te involucres y de esa manera ser partícipe todos en los cambios y las decisiones que tome la ciudad. Gracias y ahorita me traduce Margarita.
I'm happy to be here at this meeting, and I didn't know all the neighbors and the property owners, but now I get to see that there's a lot of you, and we have to have our voices heard and to make a change, a good change for our community of Logan.
Yeah, hello. My name is Walt Yeager. I've owned the building not too far from here since 1987. Owned a manufacturing company for 45 years. I've done millions and millions of dollars worth of business. I don't think anybody realizes the scope of what's going on here. This area you painted with one big broad brush. Sounds like to me that you need to handle this on an individual basis and protect the people that are being affected by a business that's not going along with or doing things out of regulation. That's up to you. That's your job. Okay. I did a little bit of research with these buildings. When you say 130 industrial buildings in this area, with the latest numbers from the real estate people around here. So 130 buildings at an average of 16,000 square feet and a price that's, let's say, $350 or $400 a square foot. is $832 million. Okay, that's what you're looking at. So if you're thinking about something like an eminent domain situation, I don't think you can afford it. Okay? But there's also 1,300 jobs by the same statistics that you're going to throw out of here, and all the people that make that money that live around here, they're going to be gone. That's what you're saying. Now, one industrial job, one, carries between 7 and 15 other workers and other jobs around with it. Okay? So this country is in one hell of a mess now, okay? Because we're not producing things we need to produce. So what kind of future are you really looking at here? If you're going to push industry away, what's left? Welfare?
Yes, my name is Anthony Vara, and I'm a resident here in Logan. And I have to deal with, like I said, the truck drivers that go through, but in talking to them, they don't disrespect me. And I've actually slowed down going in front of the houses because I warned them that there were children at play and whatnot. And I know this young lady over here says they go super fast, but I don't know what it is in front of her house, so I can't fight that in either one way or another. But they do slow down going through there, and that's their main throughway, that they have to come into the neighborhood, because I guess you guys have put regulations on they have to come in through Stafford and exit Lincoln. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've talked to the gentlemen, they're the owners of the tow truck company, the dump trucks, and the wood supply place, and they've all been respectful. So, I mean, I don't know how these other gentlemen have approached them, but I just want to say that the companies I deal with are pretty respectful to me and the other residents.
Hand raised right here in front, Frank.
I would love to end this on like a nice positive note. I'm very impressed with the residents that I've heard speak on both sides. I think some residents are positive industry, and I think some residents have made good comments. I think overall, one thing sounds like it rings true is there's a little mistrust of how the city has handled this between the businesses and the residents in the Logan Street overlay. What I would love to see happen come out of this meeting is, can we get a forum set up? Because this is an informational meeting. I don't think any of these comments really are going anywhere. Between some of the residences and some of the business owners, because I think every business owner I know is very proactive and very interested in helping out this area. This is where we make a living. We live here too. We're here 12 to 14 hours a day. We're very motivated to keep a positive area. So can we get something set up where there is real interaction between residences and business owners that is an official, not a non-official, not an information meeting, but stuff to where we can actually solve something. Because I think as a community, we could do a much better job than the city has done on this.
Let me just respond to that very briefly, and I know we've got maybe time for 2 more questions. You have been communicating, you can do that separately. We have a direction, and so we are going to be moving forward with completing the review, the legal evaluation, so that there can be a draft that you will all be informed about when it becomes available for review in advance of the scheduling of the Planning Commission and the City Council meeting.
Sounds like a railroad job to me.
Next question.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the gentleman that referred to my comments. The Department of Taxes Control has several cleanups on the south side of the city. There are contaminations for metal plating that can contaminate the soil and the water, besides the air. And that's ongoing, and there's more and more of those cleanups coming our way. Markland on McFadden is possibly another potential site that's currently being studied, see what kind of contamination is there. On the community forum that took place at Kennedy Elementary and Madison Elementary, there was two questions. One is, what is the cumulative effect that I have mentioned to you of when all these industries are polluting the air and my kid is playing in recess? The other question is, what can the city of Santa Ana do to remove and stop bringing, because in 2017, there was a metal plating company coming into the neighborhood, and that's what got us involved in the process. The other question that came out from the neighbors was, what can the city of Santa Ana do to stop bringing companies that require permits from AQMD and start bringing industry that does not require that kind of permit? So that's two different things. So that's basically what we want to know. And so the question to the gentleman, if your company is producing and releasing like X-Chrome and other carcinogens next to the school where my kids and my grandkids go, that's not fair. That's not justice. That's not right. And so that's what we want to make the distinction between one type of industry and the other.
Thank you. No interrupting. Thank you.
Hi, first I want to thank you for having this meeting. We were told at the previous meeting that there would be no comments allowed from the audience, so I don't have any prepared comments tonight. I own and operate a business on Santiago Street, just north of us where I walked down to this meeting. My business has been there 35 years. And prior to that, we were just on Standard Avenue. My business started 43 years ago in Santa Ana. We have employed hundreds of employees, and those have all grown up to higher income levels, and they'll do what they want to do. We've always been respectful of the Logan neighborhood, which is kind of the corridor, Civic Center Drive and Santiago Street. And I can't tell you over 35 years that I haven't had somebody come in and ask a question about what we're doing. But we're not, we're not burning bodies and creating black smoke and affecting people's barbecues. We're running a business. And yes, we are there 12 hours a day or maybe 14 hours a day, but we're not there overnight like some of the people recognize it is quiet at night. But there's aerial photographs of my business on San Diego, which is a transportation corridor. And there's aerial photos been industrial since the 20s or if not more than 100 years ago. I have two major concerns. I'm transitioning the ownership of my company over to the next generation. And in so doing, it was recommended that we change the name slightly. We were not allowed, we were denied a certificate of occupancy for that. And the second, so when I continue to run the operation, my second consideration is the value, long-term value of the properties. It's simply not feasible or plausible for any government to think that they can do something that devalues the property, whether it be today or 20 years from now. But those are the two things. Continue to run my business as it is. A perfect location for us because of the freeways. We can go north, south, east, and west. Thank you.
Okay, well, we really do appreciate everyone's input. I think it was really important to listen to the different perspectives, the different impacts, right, that each of you is coming from. And I've already repeated plenty of times, what the next steps are. And stay tuned, and we just appreciate hearing from, your experiences. Thank you all. Thank you.